Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Mr. Zombie here with a new video for ya. Welcome to part 2 of What If Izuku Had a Villain Quirk. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. And so, we begin. Izuku was getting his things ready for his first day at UA High, the most renowned hero academy in all of Japan. Are you sure that you're completely prepared? You didn't underpack or maybe pack too much? The elder Midoriya was currently fussing over her son, motherly instincts taking hold. The younger Midoriya groaned and turned to his mother. Mom, I told you that I have everything ready. I'll be fine, I promise. The young man let out a sigh as he tugged on his worn red trainers. Inko smiled softly as she held her hand to her cheek. She began to fondly reminisce of the time she had spent with her son in the years before. I knew, Izuku. I'm so proud of you. You proved all your doubters wrong and proved I had nothing to worry about. She smiles as she holds the cheeks of her child. You're going to be the best hero in Japan, Izuku. I can feel it. She plants a kiss on his forehead, causing the youth to flush in embarrassment and sigh. He bids her one last goodbye before exiting, preparing to begin his next step in his life. The juniper-haired teen made his way through a veritable labyrinth of hallways until finally arriving at his destination, a set of sliding doors with the label 1A shining by it. Whoa, I know Midnight Sensei said she pulled some strings, but getting me into the best class? Izuku aloud thought to himself, a sweat running down his head. I have the weirdest feeling she did this purely to torture me in some twisted way. He slowly lets his thoughts fall to a quieter roar as he entered the classroom, greeted by a scene that made him pale. Katsuki Bakugo, the very teenager who made his life so miserable before, being yelled at by some random blue-haired guy. The lanky youth turned his attention to the boy awkwardly standing in the doorway. The greenette is rushed by the taller adolescent as he begins to repeatedly chop his arm through the air. It is a pleasure to meet you. I am Ida Tenya, your fellow classmate. Another sweat drop runs down the protege of Midnight's forehead. He blinks at the other male before quickly realizing he should probably introduce himself in order to avoid being rude. My name's Izuku Midoriya. It's a pleasure to meet you as well. Just as he finished his statement, he heard an "Excuse me" from behind. He turned to find a petty brunette female standing there behind him. The girl was smiling brightly as she waved her hands. The bubbly teen introduced herself as Ochako Uraraka, striking up a conversation with the two teens near the doorway before the green-haired one could even make it through the door. Their exchange was cut short by a shuffling sound behind them that drew their attention. They all turned and gawked, almost comically at whatever it was in front of them. It took you a total of 8 seconds to quiet down. Pathetic. The thing unzipped itself, turning out to be a person in a very filthy sleeping bag. I'm your homeroom teacher, Shota Aizawa. A collective feeling of disbelief went through the three, and all behind them who had witnessed the event. Midoriya began analyzing the man on the ground, trying to figure out how someone like him could be a teacher at a top hero school. Their teacher pulled out a uniform out of his sleeping bag and held it up. Change into these and head outside to the field. I'll meet you out there in a few. He left a pile of UA training clothes on his teacher's desk and then made his way out. The students of 1A exchanged many looks of confusion before following his directions and meeting up outside. They collected into a closely knit group so they could hear the greasy-haired man better. He stands tiredly before his students and announces that they would all be participating in a quirk assessment test, causing a myriad of emotions to burst out from the crowd of teenagers. But sir, what about the orientation? Ochako asks nervously, confused at how sudden the announcement was. She shifts in place as the attention of everyone is focused solely on her. Here at UA, I'm free to follow whatever teaching format I wish. He gives the class a cold, analyzing look. Orientation won't help you be heroes, so it's virtually useless. The lanky male's eyes focus suddenly on a spiky-haired blonde as he explains how the school system forbids children from using their quirks, limiting their development for the sake of making everyone equal. He finishes his spiel by pointing at the scowling boy he kept his eye on. You there, what's the farthest you've ever gotten on a ball throw in school? The blonde responds with a score of 67 meters to his teacher's question, prompting a nod. He tosses a weighted ball used for the event to Katsuki and points at a marked place on the training field. Try it again, and this time feel free to use your quirk. Aizawa almost feels regret for his decision, as a rather disturbing grin took over the majority of the unstable boy's face. He walks up to the designated spot and gets in a stance before lunging forward, explosions cracking loudly. Wreaths of flames trace through the air following the arch of his throw, as the ball sailed forth with the power of a rocket. The noises were followed by the deafening cry of "Die!" from a psychotic teen. This quickly caused his classmates varying degrees of discomfort, as his score, now closer to 1,000 meters rather than 100 as it has been before, was displayed before them. As the discomfort fades, the class began to converse amongst themselves once more, finding the assessment test to be a fun opportunity to show off their quirks.
Oh my gosh, this is gonna be so much fun!
That statement caused a twinge in one of Shota's eyes, and they narrowed into slits. Shivers ran down each and every one of the youngling's spines. Even Bakugo was intimidated by the man. Fun, huh? Okay. How about we raise the stakes then? He meets the eyes of all his pupils, daring one of them to challenge him. The student with the lowest score at the end of the event will be expelled. He stares at them all unblinkingly as he begins a smaller speech, explaining the unfairness of the world and the necessity of heroes to hold back the unjust causes that make it so. He ends his lecture by demanding his students to go beyond, plus ultra style, and to prove to them that they belong to UA. Varying degrees of determination flash in the eyes of each hero student as the decrepit hero begins the tests, starting with the 50-meter dash. Izuku watched in shock as Ida made a ridiculously fast time before beginning to analyze the tall boy's quirk. The power was extremely similar to the pro hero Ingenium, with the only difference being the location of the mutation. He continued watching his classmates, very interested at a certain blonde's use of his quirk to propel him at high speeds to the finish line. Izuku nervously stepped up to the line with Bakugo right behind him, thoughts in turmoil. I can't do anything serious with my quirk at this distance without taking Kacchan out of the competition completely. I'll have to ration my quirk in smaller, more potent streams. The anxious teen peers up and narrows his eyes as his thoughts begin to organize. Since my toxin is around the same weight as the atmosphere's composition, if I keep it low, Kacchan should be unaffected. The sound of a robotic voice saying now commenced the race, and the frenzied blonde aimed his arms behind him and let loose an array of controlled detonations. The force of the blasts launched him forward like a projectile, around at speeds much faster than 10 meters a second. The boy who the other teen had bullied for years was not too far behind. While the anxious kid couldn't hover off the ground, he could accelerate his speed using his quirk as an aid, coming in a bit more than a second after his old friend. He stands satisfied at his score, choosing to ignore the burning red eyes staring holes straight into him. During the next test, Izuku was slightly disappointed to have only achieved 52 kilograms, until twin cries of awe came from a grape-headed boy and an ebony-haired guy from earlier as they stared at a well-built male with multiple limbs who scored an unbelievable 540 kilograms. In the stand-in long jump, Aoyama, Bakugo, and Midoriya all managed to clear the sandbox with relative ease, with the protege of Midnight going last at his request and rendering the box unusable. In the next test, the Verdinian-eyed male watched the demutile of adolescence bound between two piles of, for lack of better words, two piles of balls. The sight gave the genius teen an idea, and during his turn, he propelled himself side to side using his quirk to accelerate the time and decrease the amount of energy expanded during the event. Finally, it had all come down to the ball throw event. Aizawa gestures for the brunette in the crowd to come forward. She takes hold of the ball and releases it into the air, where it begins floating as if gravity had not affected it. The scoring tool in which her sensei used eventually read as infinity, causing the girl's classmates to stare at her slack-jawed. He calls up the only greenette in the group next, who nervously makes his way up. He muttered calming and encouraging words to himself as he took hold of the ball and got into a throwing stance. With a gulp, he hurled the ball with all his might, and from his wrist emerged an opaque stream of hallucinogenic fumes that propelled the ball at high speeds. 411.5 meters. Not bad for a quirk like yours. The exhausted man turned to see his student fanning away at some of the vapors as he sighs. He thought to himself about how troublesome it would be to train the adolescent in front of him.
It seems like Midnight was right. Not only did he seem hesitant to use his quirk, but he's frantically trying to clear the area of it.
Aizawa sighed from his thoughts, wishing he could voice them aloud. He ushers the Juniper away from the scene, and has the next students come up one by one, taking their scores. The next few events were blurs, with the worried protagonist scoring well in sit-ups and seated toe touches. Due to the flexibility training his previous sensei painfully forced him through and decently in the distance run. The seemingly insomniac teacher quickly pulled his trainee's attention to a large scoreboard with 20 spots displayed. Well done, I suppose, for a decent amount of you at least. The man said it in a deadpanned voice, not afraid to hide his displeasure at how some of them performed. He displayed the results for all of them, and a certain hero apprentice's face lit up upon seeing his name in the slot 7 space. He whooped for joy before it turned into bright red, and collapsed inward to try and reduce the attention he drew to himself. His eyes swept across his classmates, until he came into contact with a pale and shaken boy of short stature. This boy's name was Minoru Mineta, who unfortunately came in last place during the test. Aizawa approaches the boy for a moment before looking up at all of them. He deactivates the hologram and blinks once. Twice. By the way, I was lying. No one's actually going home, he says to his pupils as his mouth stretches to a terrifyingly unnatural smile. That was just a rational deception to make sure you all did your best on the test. The tense silence of the class was broken as the jaws of several of the students dropped as a unison cry of hysterical emotion echoed around the field. Momo stepped forward with a surprising look. You honestly didn't figure it out? Oh, looks like I probably should have said something. I'm sorry. She puts her hands on her hips as the rest of the class agrees with her. Aizawa slouched back down and gave the class a few instructions as he walked out, declaring class was over. He discreetly passes over a paper with Midnight's distinct handwriting on it and leans close to her pupil. She wanted to meet with you again to continue helping you with your quirk. She'll be in that room in UA at 5 today. He makes his way from the harlequin-eyed boy. If your mom asks, just say you're in a club or something. Izuku clutches the note close and reads it. A small smile took over his face. He quickly gathers his things and goes to grab a syllabus from the classroom, per his sensei's instructions, feeling another fiery glare on him from a suspicious crimson-eyed blonde. The eyes narrowed as the owner of them huffed and began to walk to his house.
Who the hell was that tired fucker talking about? Who the fuck would want to meet with that shitty Deku?
The explosive blonde was so absorbed with his thoughts he completely ignored the redhead calling for him. Kirishima pouted in a manly way as he sighed and went to walk with Kaminari. Bakugo continued his march home with a single thought on his mind.
I'm gonna find out what the hell is going on.
Thank you all for indulging yourselves in the story thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before this video ends. Firstly, we got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes deep into the facts and lore of a wide variety of anime. It's sure to expand your weeb knowledge for all kinds of series, guaranteed. On top of that, we have a third channel called We the Celestials Naruto What If. It's what we do on this channel already, but in the vast world and lore of Naruto. Go check it out if you're in the mood for some jujitsu action. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, then I would like to extend out an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being we only accept members 16 years and older to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interest by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. Our Discord is an all-around fantastic place to be. Whether you're a fan or looking to join our band of misfits, we're always looking for more members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video. So thank you all for watching and have a great day.